Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It's Thursday, June 5th. What's up? Nope, okay. If you're
That was
watching us
fun.
on YouTube or Facebook or Spotify, you had a joy of my face and Cody's face jumping around. But anyway, Thursday, June 5th, 2025. I'm your host, George Kurt, joined by Cody Roadcap. Now you got the buttons down. How you doing, Cody?
I don't know if I have the buttons down. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know what happened. I really don't.
I don't either, but it was a fun time.
And no one else does either. So that's why you should watch
No.
us live, though, because there's fun stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. This is unedited. This is raw. This is bloopers happen live. If you want to, go ahead and clip that. I mean, I don't know what I want to do of just George's face, but it could be fun.
Yeah, no one wants to see that on TikTok, but you can follow us on TikTok, Facebook, X, Instagram at the Couch GMs. That's the best plug I've made yet.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've been doing this for a while. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, we're podcasting football guys, not pressing buttons and tech guys. I don't know.
One day we'll get it all together when we get older, when we grow up.
Yes, sir. One day we will get better. But make sure you're watching us live, Facebook and YouTube, Thursday nights at 6:30. It's the off season, but we have some things going on. Cody, what's happening? CC, I have a conspiracy theory here. So Rogers must have been looking at our social media last week and heard that I was fed up with him and didn't want to talk about him anymore. So he finally did the one thing that would have actually made us talk about him again, and that was finally signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, to be fair, he announced that he's planning to sign. He has not signed yet, so we could
right,
go
just enough that we can still talk about him next week.
Yes, we can go talk about him next week if you want. But honestly, you mentioned last week talk about being fed up with it, and my rebuttal to that would be he signed, and what of any importance did he miss? Nothing. It just took a little bit longer than people wanted him to sign back in February. It got all figured out. Most people around the league, most people in our fan sphere, friends, family, all thought he was going to Pittsburgh for a while now and kind of just been living with that. Even when we did our quarterback rankings, we said he was going to be the starter. So it just seems like it's finally happening, but looking forward to that Jets matchup week 1, and more importantly, that Packers matchup week 8.
Yeah, you definitely teased that this was something happening today with the Packers shirt also, by the way.
No, I came prepared. This is my thank you 12 Aaron Rodgers shirt. Put the green background up on live if you're watching this live. Give a shout out. That was my favorite thing, was the people coming out of office at work, because everyone knows that I'm a Packers fan, and we're from Pennsylvania, so most people are either Philly or Pittsburgh. All the Pittsburgh fans coming over and showing me the notification is like, I'm upset. I'm not happy. Why? And I'm like, hey, I've been telling you for weeks this is happening.
Yeah, exactly. I think we all saw it coming, like you said. And when it comes to short term, this was the best option the best option the Steelers had. They were not going to go out there and start Will Howard or Mason Rudolph and have a whole lot of success right now. Maybe Howard would have shocked me. Rookie, you never really know. But they're a team that's still built to win now, and that was the best option they had out there.
Yeah, I like the fit. I had them higher than you on our top quarterbacks, as earlier this season. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. I mean, one of two things are going to happen. The Steelers are going to make the playoffs, and Rodgers going to bounce back season, or Aaron Rodgers will go down in history as the guy that broke Mike Tomlin's streak. So
more realistically, it would be very fitting if they had a one game over 500 season to keep the streak going and lose again in the wild card round.
Mm-hmm.
All this hype and everything else leads to the exact same thing that it has the last 7 years.
Also, fun fact, if Rodgers stays healthy and at 41 going on 42 in December, that is a tough task for any player, especially of that age. If he makes the whole season and plays the last game of the season, Pittsburgh in Cleveland, it'll be the first time he's played in Cleveland in 16 years.
How do you just avoid that?
He broke his collarbone the last time they went there, or Derek Anderson was the quarterback back in 2009 when he played in Cleveland. So there's your
I didn't
fun
even know
Tyler's
Derek
oddball fact.
Anderson played for the Packers. I just remember him on the Panthers.
No, he was the Browns quarterback.
Oh, okay. Well,
Browns
there you go. That's
quarterback
even
the last
better.
time. Yeah,
Okay.
that was the Browns quarterback back the last time Aaron Rodgers went to Cleveland. So maybe that they're
Man.
500 going in for what's going to happen with the record and his 16-year absence from Cleveland. Should be a fun time.
Yeah, that'd be a great time. But what we have been thinking of for so long seems to be coming to fruition. We'll keep you guys updated. Now we know who the potential quarterback will be for the Steelers' weapons in fantasy this coming season. Next thing we have on the rundown, Saquon Barkley backwards hurdling his way onto the Madden cover. And you had a question for me, Cody.
Well, one, I have two questions. Did you see that they reenacted him doing that?
Yes, I did.
They put him on like a cable system and everything, and instead of just using like the actual picture of from the game, that everyone has, they reenacted it, put him
Yes.
on a cable system for. I thought that was interesting. But
Mhm.
the Saquon Barkley Madden curse, are you concerned?
And I thought a few years ago we broke the Madden curse, and then Christian McCaffrey had one of the worst seasons of his career. I'm trying to it's not the Madden curse, but I do think that there is regression coming for Saquon because you're not going to reenact that again. And he had over 500 touches last season. So I don't know if it's the Madden curse. I think I'm trying to get away from that end, but I do think there's regression.
There is a fun, interesting, like if you want to believe in the curse or not. I believe it's one of the Fox Sports guys, not Nick Wright, the other one. He's doing
Okay.
some bit, and he's like, Saquon has the problem of the double curse. And then he broke it down like the last 5 years of Madden players not playing full seasons,
Mm-hmm.
are missing games, and then the offensive are having like never got back to where they were at. Like that, for example, Sean Alexander had like 30 plus touchdowns the first time he made it on the Madden cover, or when he made it on the Madden cover, had like 12 touchdowns the rest of his career, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then on top of the Madden curse, there's also the offensive player curse because of people winning offensive player of the year, having either getting injured or having bad seasons to follow it. So we'll see if Saquon can beat the odds like he did when he backwards hurdled that guy against Seattle.
How many of those people are over two though? I would find it hard to believe that there wasn't another offensive player of the year that also was on the Madden cover at least once.
And he probably got hurt or had a bad season.
Yeah, and then it looks even worse, but really it's one player doubling the statistic.
Yeah, you could be right there, but it was just it was a fun. I highly encourage people to check it out. I honestly apologize that I can't remember which site posted it, but there was just a fun last 5 years or for the offensive player, and then like the previous running backs. That's the other thing. It was only running backs that tied that in, so it was a running back only thing.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
Because they went all the way back to Eddie George, just for clarity.
Oh, wow. Okay. I also think again, like we call it the looking at running back specifically. Almost all of the running backs that have made the Madden cover are probably guys that had also had a ton of carries the year before, break down the position, being in the position you get contacted the most. Like there's other explanations to it, but it's happened for positions non-running back as well. So I'm trying not to be superstitious, but I am a little bit superstitious because I'm a sports fan and that's how we roll.
Let's not be superstitious. Let's talk about what Saquon Barkley said and just concern level. This past week, he was talking to some radio host somewhere, and they asked him about his favorite player, and he mentioned Barry Sanders. Obviously, he's a running back. That makes a ton of sense. And he talked about how he kind of like just retired at the top of his game. And he basically said, that's going to be me. I'm going to wake up one day and be like, I'm done. I'm never going to lose the competitive fire. Could be 2 years, could be 4 years. We'll have to wait and see. As an Eagles fan, after what he just did and carried you to a Lombardi trophy, knowing that you might only, out of his words, you might only have this season and next with Saquon Barkley, how does that make you feel?
I find it hard to believe because he just signed a contract extension. But if you look at even the contract, it's what 3 to 4 more seasons that he's still with the team, and that's it. I wouldn't expect much more out of it anyway. He's already a running back going into his later 20s. I think it would be very early if he retired in say 2 seasons, but you can't be realistic and expect him to be effective much beyond that anyway, because the only person in recent memory that has been effective beyond that is Derrick Henry.
Who also got a contract extension for his team
Yeah, and
this
he's
year.
32. He's going to be, I think, 34 in his contract, and I have no doubts he's going to keep going.
Yeah. So just a fun
He's
thing.
a
But
freak of nature. He's not.
I mean, every one of these players are essentially freaks of nature at this point. So
He's just even more, apparently.
hey, we'll see. And he fits well for that Baltimore team too. Like I don't think there was a better fit that he could have went to. But speaking contracts, speaking NFC East, Terry McLaurin. Now take this with whatever you want. He left voluntary workout, emphasis on voluntary. He didn't have to be there in the first place because he's upset with his contract going into his last year. But that seemed to catch your eye because you thought that was a little interesting.
Yeah, I only thought it was. I wouldn't even bat an eye if he had either not showed up or done the whole show up and just stand there in shorts and a t-shirt and be like, "I'm present, but I'm not practicing." What made this one sound weird is that he was participating and then just left. Not something I've heard a player do before, so I wonder what's going on behind the scenes.
I mean, ultimately, I think they'll get it worked out, and it could end up being because it was the voluntary. Could be much ado about nothing. But when mandatory minicamp, those 2 days roll around next week, I'm sure I'll be there because he doesn't want to get the fine. But we'll see come training camp if he does the whole show up but not participate thing unless he gets a new deal during the cold winter months of the NFL offseason.
Maybe it's just a wide receiver teammates of Deebo Samuel thing.
It also is fascinating that Terry is going to turn 30 at the start of the season here, too. So,
That
like, there's
doesn't feel
also
right at all.
he is
Feels like he's still in his second or third year.
I mean, he's been around for a long time. Like,
He has. It just doesn't feel like it.
That's just because he's had some bad quarterbacks, and it's been like, do you trust Terry? And now that he has a good one, you want to trust him, but you realize he's already at 30 years old, looking for essentially his third contract. He already got his big payday with Washington once.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, you ready to get into the meat and potatoes? Can we call it that of this episode?
I like meat and potatoes. I'm cool with you calling it that.
All right, so why don't we talk about our guys in this upcoming fantasy football season?
Yeah, that's my guy.
I hadn't seen that bumper tone. That was good. I like it.
Shout out AI.
Nice. All right. What we're doing here is we are going to basically stake claim on the guys that we believe in the most coming into the upcoming fantasy season. So we're going to pick one player from each of the major skill positions, and then each of us actually have a bonus player for you guys as well. Looking at 5 players that we really like, and we'll get to debate if the other person is right or wrong and what our claim is on those guys.
Yeah, and I think one way to look at it too, at least how I looked at it, was guys that you expect to finish higher than their ADP. Like these are the guys you're taking maybe a round earlier than the ADP because you think that's where they can ultimately end up. Or guys you have maybe you're taking them at their ADP, but you're not worried about any type of regression or floor or anything like that if it's an older player or maybe a guy looking for a bounce back. We'll get into it. And if you're first time playing fantasy football, ADP is your average draft position.
Yeah. So these are the guys. Yeah. The way I looked at it was that I am going to try to have on many of my teams, or if I draft in my normal style, I envision myself drafting a lot of stock of.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I know in our rundown here, we got a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and bonus. Is that the order you want to go?
That works for me.
All right. Do you want to take the floor with your first quarterback?
I
Because
can.
we can't quit talking about this guy.
We cannot quit talking about this guy. I did not just pick this guy because Cody hates talking about him, but I know he does. My quarterback is Jared Goff. Why is my quarterback Jared Goff? So if you know me from watching the show, I normally like drafting quarterbacks later in fantasy drafts. So I normally try to target that guy that is around that like QB8 to QB12 kind of situation that I think is going to have a fantastic year. And that guy at this point is Jared Goff. He's listed as QB10 on ADP right now. His last 2 seasons finished as QB6 and QB7. So he's exceeded those expectations the last few years. So even if you think there's going to be a slight regression out of the Lions or Goff, he still should be finishing as a startable quarterback. I think that taking that quarterback that you can be confident in lets you do a lot of other things with your team.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't not like your guy. I know some people will think that if they've been a long time listener of the show. My pushback with him is something we didn't talk about in the what happening is their center Frank Ragnow, core of their offensive line, retired out of nowhere this week. Just so, and Jared Goff he's the kind of guy that if you get pressure on him, that's how you beat him. They lost both offensive coordinators, or not both coordinators, but predominantly Ben Johnson. So I understand why he's a little bit lower, but I think I'm in the same mindset of you as like Jared Goff is still a very good value, and this is why you take tight ends. Wow. Don't take tight ends early. Take quarterbacks late. And I'm in the same mindset and vein as you. And I'm just taking a guy a little bit lower, which if 10-man leagues at current ADP of 15 for quarterbacks might not even get drafted, which kind of is crazy to me. And that is Mr. Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. And maybe that's some recency bias of him being injured last season. But if we go back to 2023, when he played the full season, that was 4,500 yards, 36 touchdowns, finished second in MVP voting. So we're only one injured season removed from that. So take advantage of that injury by getting him later. There's CeeDee Lamb there. They went out and added him George Pickens as well, added another offensive weapon for him. Do we love Javonte Williams in the backfield as like a guy that's going to take a lot of running? So expect passing, especially with a coach named Schottenheimer. Like you got to expect passing with that. And to your point, this is another prime example of why you're taking a quarterback late, because he's going behind guys like Caleb Williams, which maybe there's some upside there. Brock Purdy, who just got a big payday, but he has some limitations as well. And even Justin Fields. We talk about running being a cheat code, but Justin Fields ahead of Dak Prescott, that does not seem right, even in fantasy.
No, I can't remember a season in recent memory where Dak Prescott wasn't closer to or in QB1 talk for initial drafts. So the value is definitely there. The one thing that they didn't do that I think really would have helped was being able to address the run game more and take some pressure off of him. If teams are going to be able to go ahead and sit back in an 8-man secondary and, just try to suffocate the pass, it's going to be harder for him. But there's no denying that Dak has been a solid regular season quarterback and a solid fantasy contributor that right now is falling down draft boards because of recent bias and his injury.
Yeah, for me, when it comes to Dak Prescott, I think we're too far away. Or like even last year when he got hurt, like why am I blanking on the guy that came in? Cooper Rush, is that his name?
Cooper Rush. Yep.
Came in. He was like, we were talking about flexing him at some points. Now you're getting a better quarterback with an additional pass catching option in George Pickens. Javonte Williams isn't the best running back, but their first round pick was along the offensive line to bolster that and give more protection. He's suitable. I just think this Cowboys offense might be a little slept on. And I also don't love their defense. What happens to Micah Parsons, we'll have to wait and see. They're a high variance defense ever since Dan Quinn was there and since he's left. So they're going to have to score points, especially in a division against like the Eagles and the Commanders. The Giants, they can probably score 10 points and still win a game. But Dayball even knows how to get some points up there. Before we get to running backs, though, shout out to Ryan, who's throwing "What's up, boys" in the chat, listening to us live. So appreciate that. If you have any takes or disagreements of the guys we're mentioning, feel free to drop them in the comments, and we'll have a conversation about that here. Running backs. Unless you want to say anything else about quarterbacks, I think we're good though.
No, I'm good. Do you want to go first on running back, and then we'll switch it up here?
Yeah, I'll go first. And running back is always hard for me.
Mhm.
Because like running back is there's the top guys, and you don't want to just be like, hey, my guy Saquon Barkley. Yeah, we know. Um, I debated. I'll give a quick shout out to honorable mention to Christian McCaffrey. I thought he would
Mhm.
be lower, but he is RB6 still, and I think that's a good spot for him, even coming off of the injury. Um, so I went a little bit down the meter. Like this isn't a guy. This is my guy, but probably not the guy would be like, I'm gonna go receiver, quarterback, and be stuck with him as my lead back. I don't know if I'm on that standpoint yet, but it's like my RB2. I think I'll have a lot of shares of Brian Robinson Jr. this season. I just talked about the Commanders being a competitive team. He is currently the 30th overall running back. So he's like flexible range when it comes to running backs at this point. 87 overall. So you're looking in rounds 7 to 10, uh, depending on if you're a 10 or a 12-man league. The other aspect of that is like Austin Eckler had a really good year, but the reason Austin Eckler was a free agent was he couldn't stay healthy. He did until the end of the last season. Brian Robinson had his issues too. So they both have some issues. I mean, Brian Robinson's never had over 800 rushing yards. I get that. But this is where I think the value of a running back that low on a high-powered offense, and I also will hear the people in the chat or in the comments or just driving in their car yelling at me right now, but Jaden Daniels is going to steal all the red zone work. And you know what? He might steal some touchdowns, but Derrick Henry also knows how to score some touchdowns with Lamar Jackson. I think Brian Robinson will do just that. And also, he's not known as a pass catcher, especially with Austin Eckler there. But 2 seasons ago, he did have 43 targets, so he can be a factor given the opportunity. So I do like Brian Robinson there.
Yeah, he did have the targets 2 years ago, but we saw that immediately go down when Austin Eckler came in. I mean, Austin Eckler still actually did stay healthy last year, minus a major concussion, which I feel like concussions a little bit different. They're a little more unpredictable. It's not like it's something that's like, oh, he constantly pulls his hamstring. Like, you know what I mean? And then you're bold making your RB2 my guy being somebody who has not had an RB2 finish his entire career. But I get the upside
It's also
there.
a contract year.
Normally, yeah, but normally you like running backs on good teams because there's a chance that there's going to be games where they can basically rack up the points playing the clock. So it's not a bad pick. I'm not in love with it, but that's why it's your guy, not my guy.
No, right. And again, this isn't like this is where running backs are tough in the sense, but there's some other options right around that same page. Like if you ask me Brian Robinson or Tony Pollard, I'm probably taking Tony Pollard in that moment. Maybe next week that'll be one of the would you rathers when we get to that. But the other guys around him are like Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scattaboo, Jalen Warren, Travis Etienne. Like I think there's a good value there for a guy like Tony Pollard. And I do want to give a quick shout out to our friend Jim in the chat here, who said, please discuss Quinshon Judkins and his guy is Drake London. We haven't got to wide receivers yet, but I was this close. And if you're not watching, I am making my thumb and pointer finger very close together to making Quinshon Judkins the pick here because of what he did at Ohio State. He goes to Cleveland. Cleveland is from the Stefanski tree. They like to run the ball, or he is Stefanski, but he comes from like Minnesota, and they like to run the ball there. He's a bruiser. He's like a replacement for a Nick Chubb. They still have Jerome Ford there, but I think Judkins will pass him. And that as the season progresses, but because of Ford being there to start the season, that was the one reason why I didn't take him as quote unquote my guy, because I think it'll be more of a split until the season progresses where Brian Robinson is the guy at the top of the depth chart to kick off the season.
Yeah, I mean, the thing to like about Judkins is with value, similar to Brian Robinson, you're taking him at RB3 flex territory. And the other thing is I normally don't like taking rookie running backs because they get overvalued, but that's probably the one this season that isn't overvalued. He's probably rookie running back number, I think it's 4 or 5 behind Hampton,
He's
behind Harvey, Henderson, like, you know what I mean?
He's behind Henderson. Wow. He's behind Genty, obviously. He's behind Harvey.
Harvey and Hampton.
and Hampton. So yeah, he would be rookie running back number 5.
Yeah.
One spot above the other rookie, Caleb Johnson, for Pittsburgh. So
Mhm.
currently, as we
Yeah.
said,
So
in June.
yeah, I like him as an option too. He was not my running back, my guy though. So are
Who
you
was
good
yours?
on?
Yeah.
All right, cool. My running back, my guy, is Kyron Williams. Now, I mean, I know I've been a fan of Kyron Williams for a while here. A little bit of a different tree because, like, I'm looking at somebody who's currently ADP running back 11, but someone who has not finished outside of an RB1 in his 2 seasons as a starter so far. And just last year, when I decided that, like, oh, maybe I'm starting to come off of the wagon, I've seen him kind of break down in the second half of the season a few times. It's like he hit that second wind and took off again. He really proved me wrong at the end of last season. And I think that plus being on a solid team that's going to make this one last run for, another Super Bowl with Matt Stafford here really gives me a lot of upside, not only on Kyron Williams, but that Rams offense as a whole.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, he hasn't finished below RB1. He's being drafted as RB11. So that would be an RB1 for people that don't know. We rank that 1 to 12, 12 to 10, 12-man leagues.
The way I look
RB1
at it is if I ever end up in any leagues where, so his current, running back 11 at average draft position of 25. So if I were in a situation where I want to go top 2 wide receivers, zero running back kind of strategy, I see him as being my running back 1 a lot.
Yeah. And the only thing with him is because, and like you said, he's proved it the last 2 years. And this is just me playing devil's advocate because I would take Kyron Williams in, the end of round 2, top of round 3, probably every time. So I'm not, the only devil's advocate is the Rams love to add running backs. They added another one. They added Blake Corum last year. They added another guy in the 4th round this year. They've talked about him a lot already, being that it was only rookie minicamp and OTAs, which mainly because he's the guy that's getting all the love at the moment. So if he does go through one of those slow parts of the season, and one of that, maybe the rookie or Corum takes a step, does it become more of a split and he falls out of that top 1 category. But again, that's just me playing super devil's advocate at that point.
Yeah, but I also feel like Kyron's had a guy behind him his entire career that's been that hyped guy. Corum was the guy last year, and obviously when he got the opportunity, he was not as flashy as they expected him to be. But I feel like Kyron's been doubted quite a bit, and he's kept kind of, just coming through. And I feel like there's been other running backs in that division that have been in a similar situation as him.
So, like, I never bought into the Corum hype because they were like complementary pieces, in my opinion. Their rookie, why am I blanking on his name? From the 4th round, he's more of a similar skill set to Kyron. So I don't know, like, he could be the Kyron replacement in, a year or 2 when the contract's up and they don't want to pay running backs. I would not be surprised by that. But this would be a good year to take advantage of Kyron, and where he's being drafted. Like, you're buying high on Bucky Irving repeating with the offensive coordinator moving on. And then right after him is Breece Hall, which might be more talented, but it's with the Jets and you haven't seen it despite you being there. And then a guy like Chase Brown on a team that's going to want to throw the ball everywhere. So
I'm sure there's even plenty of people who would rather take him over Jonathan Taylor, who had a fairly healthy season last year, but has inconsistency as well. So even him versus Jonathan Taylor, who's currently running back 9, is even a coin flip for people, just depending on, preference.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd do that, but it's not a bad option.
All right, Cody. We go with running backs.
I think we're good with running backs.
All right. Do you want me to start wide receivers?
Yeah, because ironically, I think we're going to be in the same vein with this one as well.
Okay, here we go. Wide receiver. I'm kind of sticking around a similar positional draft spot. He's a little further down overall boards than I was with Kyron. And I'm going to old man speed himself, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, currently wide receiver 13, 35th overall on ADP boards. I could see this going up if he has a good mini camp and, training camp and gets a little bit of hype behind him. But I think a lot of people are skeptical with his age coming towards the end of his career and being as a speed guy that it's gonna, is it gonna start breaking down? But I like his track record being the only time he finished outside of the top 8 wide receivers since his rookie year, where last year and in 2018 when he only played 12 games due to injury. A lot of people are like, last year he was just horrible. We also then found out at the end of the year that he was playing with one wrist the entire season, and we didn't know it until about week 15 or something. And then Miami also had the situation where they were without Tua for a long time. Something you have to think about if you're drafting any Miami weapon, because that was completely different without him. But I'm not going to draft to injuries. I'm going to assume Tua gets through another season here, and Tyreek Hill doesn't get hurt in training without us knowing about it. And he's somebody who's a slam dunk wide receiver 1, given his history.
Yeah, I mean, the Tua thing is real. The decline last year, I don't think his speed's gone anywhere. The disgruntledness, I think they've worked past that. That was another thing I think has lowered him down. I would not be surprised to see this guy higher. My only issue is when I'm looking at Tyreek Hill and I'm looking at, you said he's wide receiver 13. So if I'm looking at if I go up to 10 and down to 15, 10's AJ Brown, 11's Lad McConkey, 12 is Jackson Smith-Njigba, 13, like you mentioned, is Tyreek Hill, 14 is T. Higgins, and 15 is Terry McLaurin. In that group, you can make an argument that Tyreek Hill would be the last one in that group, in my opinion. I think it's, as you get lower down, like the Tyreek Hill, Terry McLaurin one, that's a different conversation, especially like we just talked about with his contract issue. That could play a factor into it as well. But I do like that you're taking an older guy that has proven that he's done it. And if you get Tyreek Hill back being top 5 wide receiver in fantasy in round 3,
4,
or 3 if you're 12 man.
He's currently going 35th overall, so round 3 to 4.
Yeah, 4 if you're 10 man.
Mm-hmm.
That value is a surplus, and that is the same thing I'm looking at is with my guy Davante Adams. Now you're gonna be like, oh, you're a Packers fan. Okay, I don't want to hear that. That's not the reason I'm picking Davante Adams. He is currently ranked as wide receiver 18 on Fantasy Pros. Sometimes he gets moved to 17, depending on how you're looking at, flipping back and forth with Marvin Harrison Jr. So that's where he's at, but he's the 40th overall current ADP wide receiver. Our 40th overall player, 18th wide receiver. You got what I'm saying. Last year, he finished wide receiver 14. So again, you're getting him lower than where he finished last year. Yes, he's a year older. He's now 32, but he finished last season playing only 14 games. Now people are like, oh, he missed games with a hamstring injury. Remember that? The hamstring injury that was magically healed when he got to New York? Yeah, that hamstring injury. The 6 of the last 7 seasons, he's had over 1,000 yards. You know how many yards he had that one season he didn't? 997. So let's just say he's had 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons. So, and the other big factor is with him, Matthew Stafford. It always comes back to Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff on the same episode. That's what happened.
Yes, it does.
The last 2 seasons, Matthew Stafford has had Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Both of those guys have finished top 24 in points per game over those last 2 seasons. You have to go to points per game because Cooper Kupp and Puka both missed time, but in points per game, they've missed it. I don't think that changes by swapping out Cooper Kupp for Davante Adams. I think it's going to, eat into some of Puka's stuff, and you want Puka to stay healthy. Again, we're not drafting for injuries. But look where Puka's being drafted. Puka is all the way up as a top 10 pick. Same offense.
Wide receiver 6, 10th overall. Yep.
You can get Davante Adams, the value of him this much later, especially if you're in a 10-man league at the end of round 4. Like, sign me up for that every time.
I'm glad you got ahead of my argument to you was going to be. You're looking at Davante Adams, wide receiver 1 in Green Bay, wide receiver 1 in Vegas, to wide receiver 1 with the Jets, to now probably wide receiver 2, or at least 1B to A in LA. So you're going to see a little bit of a difference in that. But they have supported 2 wide receivers in the past. So there's a good argument that you already made back to that.
Yeah, like you said, I understand, like, he's not being drafted as the first round, second round guy because he's not the top target anymore. But I think that only helps him with his age. I think that only helps him. And Devontae is a tactician and how he wins in the NFL. So it's not like he's athletic, but he's not like the prime athlete. He wins with being tactical and with his skill set that he's developed. So I think that'll transgress or continue to be fine and dandy as he gets older. He gets to not have to face the number one guys because they're going to be focused on Puka Nacua. I think Devontae Adams is in for a big season, not being the focal point of an offense. People are going to be tied to Puka Nacua, and honestly, could even make the argument that he's more valuable with Puka Nacua than if we see a season like we did last year where Puka misses a handful of games and he has to go back to being that number one target. Like his value might go up with Puka on the field.
Hey, that's a fair assessment there. We've seen a lot of wide receivers that benefit from having somebody else across when that person gets hurt. Doesn't happen. You also have the argument then of like, has Puka played a full season? Is he going to play a full season? But if he misses 1 or 2 weeks, that doesn't affect Devontae Adams long term either. So,
also, quick shout out to friend of the show, Kempy. Make sure you check out I should have sent it to you, and I'm sorry that I didn't. There's a video. I don't know if the Rams posted it or one of his teammates posted it. Puka with his hair down. They were calling him Lord Farquaad, and he kind of looked like it. So from Shrek. So as a Shrek fan, you need to go check that out.
Oh yeah, that's a great one. Are you good with wide receivers then, Cody?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk wide receivers all day. You want my long list of honorable mentions that I want to be my guys, but didn't do that.
If you're going to just name them and move on, go ahead. I know Drake London is on that list.
No, I won't do that. I'll save that for another episode.
Sounds good. Cool. All right. Well, tight ends and by order of operations, you're going up next year.
Okay. Well, tight ends, I don't have to spend a lot of time on tight ends here because really, honestly, outside of the top 2, 3, if you want to include George Kittle, I think you can still include him, especially in redrafts at this point. I don't really care about the tight end position, and I know that's bad to say. Some people be like, what about Sam Laporta and TJ Hawkinson? Yeah, great. Sounds good. So I'm just going to give you a fun flyer, basically. That's Tucker Kraft. Now I am using my fandom as a reason to fight this, is a guy that I paid attention to a lot. The way he has evolved over the last couple of years, he isn't looking in line for a year 3 breakout, which we've commonly seen, especially at the tight end position. Year 3 is a big year. He finished in the top 10 last year, and he's going as tight end 11 this year, so you're getting a little bit of a positive there. My only concern with him is the amount of targets in Green Bay, because there's so many mouths to feed, because there isn't the true number one guy or whatnot. But I think that also is a positive because Tucker Kraft could lead the team in targets and catches if they ran through the team. So that's not out of the realm of possibility. And he started to develop into that security blanket last year. And just go watch the Rams game from last year, what he can do with the ball in space and stretching the field. So there's a fun flyer. Like I mentioned, tight ends is always a tough position to really sink your teeth into somebody that isn't at the top of their game.
Yeah, I can't argue too much just because tight end, especially at that point, is just throw a dart at a dartboard, like we always say. But
it's the 2 rookies,
I know
2 first-round rookies, Kraft, Kincaid, Ferguson, and Goddard, and then Kyle Pitts.
Yeah,
those are like the next list there. Like, it is what it is. But why is your guy Cole Kmet?
My guy is not Cole
It
Kmet.
should have been all the way down there.
No, it shouldn't have.
29. I think he's going to be
he's not even their starting tight end anymore.
Oh yeah, because Loveland is going to come in right away. Cole Kmet has a better week 1 than Loveland. Stream of the week.
I would not doubt that, and that is why I'm not drafting Loveland or Cole Kmet, and neither of them are my guys.
All right. I don't even know
maybe in Dynasty. We'll look at Loveland in Dynasty. That's fine. My guy is tight end 9, currently going 97 overall. Mark Andrews. Why Mark Andrews? I mean, he started slow last season, coming back from his major ankle injury. Everyone was like, he's done. Now it's time for Isaiah Likely. And then he proceeded to get a touchdown in every single game after week 6, except for 2. And the other thing that we were concerned about him with like with Derrick Henry in the house, and you also have, Lamar Jackson stealing a lot of rushing touchdowns. If the volume's not going to be there, how is he going to get points? And he still showed that he is the guy in the red zone. And if touchdowns are going to keep coming, I'm going to take that guy if I'm not going to get one of the top tight ends.
Yeah, I don't hate it with him being all the way down at 9. Again, the tight end position is interesting. Johnny Smith had a really good year last year. He's 2 spots ahead of him. We didn't talk about this in the news, but there's a weird situation with him going on. Wants a new contract, but he's also allowed to explore a trade. The Steelers were going to trade for him, then they backed out. Now they're back into it. Like, Johnny Smith is going 7 now. Like, hopefully you're not drafting your redraft right now. He's the 7th guy, and he might end up on a new team come midway through training camp. So that is,
and tight ends are so volatile that it really depends on what team he ends up on if he's going to be good or not. There's a reason that he wasn't super effective in New England. If he ends up on another team that's not going to feature a tight end like they did in Miami, it's death to the position, basically.
Yep. All right. We got bonuses next.
We got bonuses.
Bonus.
Is it me first?
Yeah, bonus round. I didn't make
Cue
a
the sound effect.
round.
You did not, but that's fine. So let me pull up my situation here. My bonus goes to the running back position, and I'm looking at running back 20, who I think being that borderline running back 2 to flex is ridiculous after a season like last year. Chuba Hubbard. And I know you're going to agree with this one too. You also were on the fence with Chuba Hubbard. You have a big breakout as a running back. Somebody who we thought had some upside 2 years ago, last year, finishes running back 15 on a horrible, for the most part, team. How often do you see a running back being that effective on a team that was not even competitive for 3/4 of the season? And then you're going to say, okay, I expect Carolina to be a more competitive team. They had the quarterback start to figure it out. They added a couple of pieces. Chuba Hubbard should get an upgrade as well. If he even goes from 1,200 yards, which he had last year, gets a couple extra carries and makes that 1,400 yards, he has a chance to finish an RB1.
Yeah, I hear you. And I agree. I think Chuba Hubbard will be a value pick. The reason
I'm not saying I'm going to take him as an RB1. I'm just like, you're taking him at RB20. I think that's a steal.
Yeah, I hear you. I would have done that. And this is just the reason I went Brian Robinson over him, because of, I think the team's going to be better. But Chuba Hubbard does have a little bit of injury history. That's the reason he wasn't available for your fantasy playoffs there. I'm sure there's some of that reflected in the ADP already, people that were burned, which isn't how you should draft, but it happens every year. They went out and signed Rico Dowdle, who had a pretty good season in Dallas. I'm not saying he was like a difference maker, but would not be surprised if he eats into some of those carries. So you're getting, I see him more of like 1,200 yards doing. My ultimate reason why I didn't pick him was I think what he did last year, doing that again, would be a solid season. I don't see really him getting where he could get more is the touchdowns. I think he could end up with more touchdowns because I do think the Panthers will be better. Or better is not the right word. Better than they were at the beginning of last year throughout. But again, RB20, great value.
Okay, so even if you're saying he's going to go out there and repeat last year, 1195 on the ground, 10 touchdowns, 171 in the air, and a touchdown, and you say maybe he gets an extra touchdown or two, he already finished his RB15, so you're already getting value above where he's being drafted, and then you're saying there's a chance he's
ceiling for him. That was my ceiling for him. So like you're looking at him going to 1,400. I'm saying it's gonna be closer to 1,000. That was the difference maker. Again, your guy, not mine. But that was my thought process and why I flipped to a guy that's never had 1,000-yard season, because I was anticipating some breakout there, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. But my bonus guy, I went in a completely different direction.
Okay, cool.
Because if you're looking at the ADP list, you're gonna have to scroll for a while. This guy, and I'm going to talk about him again when we do our late round flyers. I'm talking about ADP 179, going undrafted in 10-man leagues currently. RB 55. You're like, what are you talking about? This is your guy. This is my late round flyer. I'm booking this on June 5th. Last round of every redraft league I'm taking this guy. Because yes, Roschon Johnson is a bit of a projection, but he's still only 24 years old. He's behind a guy in DeAndre Swift in Chicago who does not have a clean bill of health whatsoever. Speaking of DeAndre Swift, let's look back to when he was in Detroit with Ben Johnson. He was in a 2 running back system with Jamal Williams, guy that wasn't really drafted, underrated. Jamal Williams only went out and had 18 touchdowns that season. I'm not saying Roschon's going to go out there and get 18 touchdowns, but a guy that is behind a running back that didn't have the best season, has some health concerns, has a new head coach, so we don't actually know how true split it's going to be, but he comes from using 2 running backs heavily. For a guy that you don't have to spend any, don't draft your kicker. There, I said it. Don't draft your kicker, draft Roschon Johnson. That's my advice for you here in June.
I mean, what I will give you is, if we're going to look at history with Ben Johnson, and they have thunder and lightning in all of their running back rooms, DeAndre Swift is lightning. You want thunder because they get a lot of touchdowns. And last year, say 14 games, 55 carries, and 6 touchdowns. That's a pretty good percentage for somebody who wasn't really used to still get 6 touchdowns last year.
Yeah. And there's less running backs in Chicago, like behind, because last year started off, they were doing the whole dance with Khalil Herbert before he got traded to Cleveland. He's the number 2 guy behind DeAndre Swift this year with the guy with Ben Johnson. So again, big projection, but I also think could be big payoff if you get this guy late.
You don't have to pay anything. Like you said, going on in your last round, whatever. I like that move because you're not risking anything.
I mean, and this is also too, like, and we'll talk about this as we get closer to the season, like drafting handcuffs and stuff like that. I mean, there's handcuffs going higher than this guy, and he would be a handcuff I don't know if I would take both of them, but like, it is definitely a player worth watching, and he might even rise. Like, if you have a good preseason or Swift gets hurt or something like that, could be an interesting name to pay attention to.
I like it, Cody. All right. It was fun. It was nice being able to talk about your guys a little bit.
For sure. But I think, that's pretty much, like I said, the meat and potatoes of this episode. You got any dessert for the fine folks?
I didn't know I was supposed to prep dessert. I thought that was your job.
See, George never coming prepared. No,
Never.
But yeah, I think that will pretty much wrap it up then, unless George thinks of anything last second. But just to give you guys a little bit of an update, kind of what's happening next, because we know it's June. Mandatory minicamp is coming up next week, and after that, we're going to go into that 5-6 week season of very little stuff. But that's where we start to get excited about fantasy football. We got a draft coming up. We have some guys not to draft, some would you rather's coming up. A lot of fun things in the works, getting into our top 100 a little bit later in the season. So, as always, thank you for sticking with us. Listen to us even in the off season. That's how you know you're a true Couch GM, is when you are here in the middle of June when we're still weeks away from football, but you're just so invested, and we appreciate that so much. As always, make sure you follow us on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, TikTok, all those good places. We got reels coming out. We got advice. And if you have questions, shoot us a DM or hop on a live 6:30 on Thursdays and drop a comment below. We're looking forward to next week. We hope you join us. That's George Kurth. I'm Cody Roadcap, and we'll talk to you then.